for joining the Sunday webinar of Fellowship Family. Friends, today we have a very good session with Dr. Kavita Bhatt, Assistant Professor, Department of Philosophy in the HNB Garhwal Central University, Srinagar, Uttarakhand. And today, Dr. Kavita Bhatt will speak on the theme holistic and multidisciplinary education. And this topic will explore so many things for the development of students in all aspects as envisaged in NEP 2020. I don't want to go to NEP 2020. And today, Dr. Kavita Bhatt will explore all the things to us, and it will be very benefiting to all of us. And regarding Dr. Kavita Bhatt, I would like to say that Dr. Kavita Bhatt has been invited to Fellowship Family many times, and the presentation of Dr. Kavita Bhatt is very inspiring to all of us. And every time she comes with a new topic, and Dr. Kavita Bhatt has a specialization in Indian philosophy, yoga, applied philosophy, and ethics. Dr. Kavita Bhatt has obtained GRF from Indian Council of Philosophical Research and postdoctoral fellow from UGC. She has been conferred with many awards from different academic and non-academic forums of different institutions of our country. And Dr. Bhatt has contributed many articles to many articles in different forums. Those have been published in different journals of our country, and they are also published in international journals. Dr. Kavita Bhatt has a research experience of more than 16 years. To her credits, she has published, she has authored more than 11 books on yoga and Indian philosophy, and she has all of her papers, research papers, have been published in UGC Care, UGC Care Report Journal, and different reputed journals of her country and abroad. And she has been assigned with different important responsibilities in her university and other universities. She's also a very good editor, and who has proven her experience in editing different books that I don't want to explore all the things. And Dr. Kavita Bhatt is a very young, dynamic, and promising scholar of our country. And today, she will speak on holistic and multidisciplinary education. With this, I welcome Professor Ranjit Ghosh and other Professor Ranjit Ghosh, Professor Shukla, Professor and other senior professors of our country and abroad to be with us. I welcome all the research scholars of our country to be with us, and I welcome Dr. Pramod Padas, the admin of Fellowship Family. Today, he will give her own observation after the talk of Dr. Kavita Bhatt. And with this, once again, I welcome all the viewers of Fellowship Family, and I welcome Dr. Kavita Bhatt to comments her talk on the scheduled topic. Over to Dr. Kavita Bhatt. Madam.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, respected Dr. Kailash Chandra Mohanana, sir. We have an interaction, but a long gap was there. But now I'm with you with a new topic. First of all, I would like to express thanks to Professor P.K. Das, sir, Professor K.C. Mohanana, sir, and Professor K. Om Narayan Rao, sir, and philosophy, all members of Philosophy family who are organizing such a wonderful webinar again and again. It's a golden series of talks, and we have enjoyed it and we have learned from it. So I'm very fortunate to got an opportunity to talk about holistic and multidisciplinary education today. Uh, in this topic, we will try to discuss the term discipline, interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and multidisciplinary. After that, we will go through the meaning, definition, objectives of holistic education as the essential of multidisciplinary education. Am I audible to you, sir?
Yes, yes.
Voice is
Yes,
clear?
yes, yes, madam. Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Clear, clear,
Okay,
clearly audible.
okay. Thank you so much. And after that, we will discuss the obstructions in the way of holistic education. And we will try to discuss Darshnik interpretation of a Vyaktitva, and the difference between person and personality through this talk, and the Bharatiya theories of Vyaktitva like Panchakosh, Prakriti Purush Siddhant, Chakra Nadi theories, etc. Because it's must to understand the theories of Vyaktitva for the holistic education. And multidisciplinary education in Indian perspective, we should also focus on that. And further, we will discuss the aims of multidisciplinary education, methods in multidisciplinary education, and benefits of multidisciplinary education. And after that, we will discuss the relation between holistic approach and multidisciplinary education. So first of all, I would like to discuss that what is a discipline? What is a out of disciplinary box thinking? We know that a specific body of teachable knowledge with its own background of education, teaching, research, training, procedures, methods, and content areas. We can discuss all these things in a particular discipline, and when we try to discuss these things out of box, that is multidisciplinary. But before that, it's must to understand that what is transdisciplinary. Establishing a common system of exam for a set of disciplines. For example, suppose we are talking about anthropology, which is considered as the science of man and his accomplishment. According to Linton's definition, it is a discipline. From the above definition, it is clear that multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary are two poles separated from each other. In the USA, the general education is imparted for personal and social development, whereas in Europe, for intellectual and scientific development, other and interdisciplinary lies between them. And in a non-technical sense, multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary are terms used synonymously. However, in academic word, interdisciplinary education is used more frequently than multidisciplinary education. So this is the difference between multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary approach, now we should shift on that. An adjective describing the interaction among two or more different disciplines. And this interaction may range from simple communication of ideas to the mutual integration of organizing concepts, methodology, data, and organization of research and education in a fairly large field. And an interdisciplinary group consists of persons trained in different fields of knowledge, that is disciplines, with different concepts, methods, and data and terms organized into a common effort on a theme. And interdisciplinary research-based teaching is a novel way to engage students to think rather than understand existing body of knowledge. So now the question is that what is multidisciplinary? Multidisciplinary, just a position of various disciplines and sometimes with no apparent connection between them. For example, we are taking music, mathematics, and history. So a particular rhythm is there in music or Sangeet. A particular rhythm is there in Sangeet. But what should be the meters of that particular rhythm? So Sangeet will define the rhythm or that particular song, and the mathematics will define the meters of that particular rhythm or particular song, and plus history in that song. So how much classical is this song? It will be defined by the history. So there is a combination of music, mathematics, and history. So for a good song, to compose a good song, we should go through 3 disciplines. But the theme is only one. So we are working only one theme through Sangeet, mathematics, and history on a particular song. Theme is a particular song, and disciplines are Sangeet, mathematics, and history. So I think now it's clear that what is multidisciplinary, where various disciplines work for a common theme to understand in depth. Like we are talking about environmental issues. So a particular discipline will talk about environment with a particular thought, with a particular strategy. But there should be policies, there should be well-being of environment, there should be the strategies to groom or to make a healthy environment around us. So theme is environment, but disciplines are different, like philosophy, like social science, like botany, etc. So we can work together for a particular theme with different disciplines. but theme will be only one. We should focus only one theme or only a common theme. Various disciplines, when various disciplines research for a common theme for the well-being, we can say it's a multidisciplinary approach. Now, this is the question that what is the historical background of this multidisciplinary approach? From where it came, from where it was started? Uh, it has not a long history. And since 1970s, multidisciplinary centers and departments were established. Uh, there in foreign countries, curricular changes allowed multidisciplinary approach in education, and there was choice-based credit system offered students the choices to study specialization based on disciplines as well as the option to study subjects from other disciplines. The recent initiatives of multidisciplinary education of Government of India contained in National Education Policy 2020, which is very important. And we know that we are in transition phase from CBCS system, choice-based credit system, to National Education Policy. And we are in the phase to develop a curriculum according to National Education Policy 2020, which provides the vision of government for modernizing education in Bharat. Multidisciplinary education is of utmost priority in achieving modernization towards achieving multidisciplinary education through following recommendations like institutional restructuring, curriculum restructuring, and I think high quality teaching and research. So basically, these three are the main aims of this uh, multidisciplinary education through national education policy or national education policy through multidisciplinary education. Now we should understand that what is holistic education, and uh, after accomplishing it, we will in position to understand that what is the connection between holistic education and multidisciplinary education. So what is holistic education? The holistic approach to education emphasizes the development of all aspects of a student, including physical aspects, emotional aspects, intellectual aspects, ethical aspects, social aspects, and spiritual aspects. We can say that a student will achieve the aims of as core academics and developed emotional state. We can say that emotional development or emotional balance or emotional harmony. She or he also has critical thinking skills and conflict resolution skills should be there through holistic education. Character formation is also an aim of holistic education, and there should be healthy social skills. We can say that there should be a harmony, there should be a balance, there should be a healthy relation between that particular unit of society, which is a Vyakti, and that society. As a unit of society, the Vyakti should have all these through holistic education. He or she also should have the manners that the behavior of that particular unit or that particular Vyakti should be very balanced, should be very harmonious with the units of other society, units of that particular society, other units of that particular society. And there should be hands-on lessons also. In holistic education, we are talking about the hands-on lessons also. So these are the aims of, or the process of, or the units of that holistic education. So now the question is that holistic education, uh, on the aims of holistic educations, which are the particular aspects where we are working. So we are working on positive institutional environment to a student. We should provide that. And holistic education attempts to provide whole kinds of supports to students. It provides a systematic support to fulfill the academic and non-academic needs of students. There is a stress upon academic and non-academic needs. So we should prepare a balance between these two, academic and non-academic needs of the students. Students are taught to reflect on their actions and how they impact the global and local community, as well as how to learn from the community around them. Teachers often engage students in projects that apply critical thinking skills. We know, which is also a prime theme of philosophy. And critical thinking skills towards solving real world problems. This is also an aim of, or aspect of that holistic education. Friends, we know that it is the responsibility of a teacher to bring out the best in each student. And all the students should be equally appreciated, motivated, and treated. In the classroom, the students are more important than the teachers. When it comes to designing the lecture, the extent of a teacher's success in the classroom very much depends on how she or he manages the students. And the importance of formal education is not reduced or neglected. It is the an educational institution to develop in such an effective manner that the imparting of formal education can go hand in hand with the holistic education and effectivity of the lectures. And there is an emphasis on life experience and learning beyond the beyond the confines of the classroom and the formal education environment towards education as growth, discovery, and directions, positive directions. There are so many benefits of holistic education, like supportive learning environment. It should provide a kind of a spatial support for each and every student, and it should be with enhanced communication and motivational skills. It should be stronger teacher student relationship. It should have that. It should have increased respect and compassion. It should be with empowered voices. It should be with comprehensive understanding. So these all are, and others also, including harmonious behavior, including manners, including a vision for progress, a vision for physical, mental, spiritual, overall progress of a particular student. These are the benefits of holistic education. Now we should move toward the contemporary history of holistic education. Friends, we know that it's very recent in India, and before that it was in Western countries. In modern era, we are talking about modern era, and after that we will go through the ancient Indian or Bharatiya history of that particular holistic education. But now I'm talking about the modern era. So holistic education is a relatively new movement developed in the I think 1980s to counteract the existing US learning structure that was perceived as mm, mechanistic according to Education Corner. However, the theory of educating based on a person's entire experience has roots in ancient concept of instruction, including those of Greek and native indigenous cultures, and has increased in prevalence over the past century. Several different approaches based on whole person education gained stream and, in the 20th century, including Maria Montessori's self-motivated growth philosophy and Rudolf Steiner, the Mills Waldorf learning technique. And many states are now incorporating holistic goals into their educational system. Improvement plans including Bharat through National Education Policy 2020. So now there is a curiosity that is it a new idea for Bharat? Is it a new idea for our country? Or we have already the idea of holistic approach? Answer is that we have a proud legacy of holistic approach in Bharat. We have Gurukul Parampara. We have the ideas of Para or Adhyatma Vidya. We have the idea of, we have a proud legacy of Apara Vidya, that is Shiksha, Vyakaran, Chand, Jyotish, Nirukt. These are the components of, or these are the streams of, these are the branches of Apara Vidya. So, we have the legacy of holistic education, or we have the holistic approach for the progress of a unit of society in form of a Vyakti in from ancient Bharat. We have a legacy of Purusharth, and these Purusharths are Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha. Basically, there is a systematic division of particular duties, particular karmas in particular ashram, or particular purusharth is there. Ashramas are there. The first one is brahmacharya. About dharma, we should do the we should have dedication for dharma, and in garhastya there should be a dedication for earth and calm. In vanaprastha there should be a dedication for society, and in sannyas there should be the practices for moksha. We should get the moksha in that fourth stage of life, that is sannyas ashram. So we have a legacy of holistic approach in Bharat, and the holistic and multidisciplinary approach during the age of Chanakya, we know that very well, that we have universities in India like Takshashila, Nalanda. We have the position of Vishwaguru at that time, and many students were regularly coming to Bharat for that particular kind of holistic approach. And the holistic grooming in ancient world-class universities of Bharat, like Takshashila, Nalanda, Vikramshila, etc., were there, who were providing the holistic education to every student from every corner of world. So we have a golden legacy of holistic approach in Bharat. Now, I think we should understand something about the this legacy of holistic approach in Bharat. Friends, we know that we have the literature of Sanatan Dharma. We have Prasthantrayi, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra. These three are Prasthantrayi, and we have 14 Vidyasthan. We have 4 other Vidyasthan, and these are the works of several Maharshis, Dashnikas in Bharat. And this is our traditional form of that particular Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. We have very rich streams of Gyan in all Bharatiya languages also. All Bharatiya languages means it may be Odia, it may be Garhwali, it may be Tamil, it may be Marathi, it may be Malayalam, it may be that particular other language, Hindi, it may be Telugu, And Sanskrit is the root of all these. So we have a wealth of gyan in all Bharatiya languages, and every language provide a particular kind of holistic approach for the holistic progress of that particular vyakti. And we have the knowledge of basic and applied sciences, engineering, technology, agriculture, alchemy, aesthetics, kavya, arts, health, wellness, psychology, public administration, and code of living, etc. So all these aspects have been covered with the Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, and it's an example of that that holistic approach. And we have so many non-literary forms, oral traditions, which are dedicated to art forms, health, food and life practices. And there are so many lok paramparas in Sanatan Parampara. So we have a legacy of Bharatiya Gyan Parampara with holistic approach. We know that 4 Vedas are there: Rig Veda, Samved, Yajurved, Atharvaved. And I have already discussed Siksha, that is phonetics, Vyakaran, that is grammar, Chanda, that is meters, Niruktam, that is etymology, Jyotisham, that is astronomy, Kalpam, that is ceremonies. So we have all these in our uh, parampara. We have all these in term of holistic approach. Ayurveda is there, Charak Samhita is there, Dhanurved is there, Gandharva Ved is there, Arthashastra and Satpat Vidya is there. There is Sthapatya Vidya also. So we can say that we have a very, very good parampara, or we have a very good Sanskriti of that particular holistic approach. Because we all are from Darshan Shastra, and we know that Mimamsa is there, Uttar Mimamsa is there, Tarka Shastra in form of Nyaya, that is also there. 18 Puranas are also there. Dharma Shastras by Manu, Parashar, Yagyavalkya, etc. are also there. We have a very rich parampara of that holistic approach. Now, this may be a question that how we are practicing, or we were practicing how we had holistic approach in our gurukulas. Friends, we should go through the example of Sri Krishna, who were the disciple of Guru Sandipani. And there are 64 kalas which are we are assuming that there are 64 kalas in Sri Krishna, in the Vyaktitva of Sri Krishna. And Ishwar Krishna or Sri Krishna learned a lot about Geetam, Vadyam, Nrityam, and all kalas of, वस्त्र उपांग, द्यूत विशेष, आकर्ष, all these things. Total 64 kalas were there. Vastu is also there. Dhatuvad is also there. Mani Rag were also there. So all these different things were there in holistic approach of that particular Bharatiya Gurukulas. So this is not a new one for us. But we forgot all these things. We forgot all these things with the Karl Marx education system. And it was replaced by a particular kind of curriculum. And that there is we have used that India, that is Bharat, in the preamble of our constitution. And now we are again and again pronouncing India in place of Bharat. But we are very familiar with the mantra. जम्बूद्वीपे भरतखंडे भारतवर्षांतर्गते अमुक क्षेत्रे अमुक नामनी देव्या. There are reasons. And Jambudvipa Bharatkhand Bharatvarshantargate. This is not only a mantra. This is not only a sankalp. This is a legacy of that particular parampara, that we have a particular reason, we have a particular gyan parampara in our that particular reason, which is Bharatvarsh. And everyone is very familiar with that particular Artha Shastra, Chanda Shastra, Yoga Sutra, Kama Sutra. Mahabhashyas were there. Ras Ratnakar is there. Charak Sanhita is there. Sankhya Darshan is there. Amar Kosh is there. And I want to especially quote the Surya Siddhant is also there. Dharma, that is code of living, that is also there. Vyakarana, Nritya, theater, mathematics, astrology, astronomy, Nyaya and Vaisheshik Sutras are there. Tark and Gyan were also there. And we worked on the mathematical works also. Like we invented zero. Zero was given by Bharat. And in Common Era, health, wealth, and well-being through the various disciplines of Bharatiya Darshan, public administration, metrical pattern, foreign policies, finance, binary maths, and control of mind, art forms, Sanskrit, which is the most scientific language of world. So we have a legacy of this holistic approach. So in Common Era, we have all these things. I have already discussed all these things. And in 500 BC to 1800 BC, there were significant contribution in the area of mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, spirituality, and other areas for wellness of mankind. Importance, we should understand this particular, we should understand the importance of this particular holistic approach with the special reference of Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. The thinking patterns and the repositories of knowledge created by the forefathers enable the current generations and to understand the thought processes and frameworks of previous generations, which allows them to analyze the received wisdom in a contemporary context and identify new opportunities to assimilate the accrued wisdom and synthesize new knowledge. It was an oral tradition, and it was religious versus material dimension. It was a spiritual versus material dimension. It was typical presentation in the style of sutras. So many examples are there, like Maharshi Panini, Maharshi Kapil, Bhaskaracharya, Brahmagupta, uh, like Vyakaran, cosmology, aviation technology, uh, mathematics and astronomy. Aryabhatta is also a very good example of mathematics and astronomy. Bhaskaracharya is example of algebra, and Brahmadev is also an example of mathematics and astronomy. Here, Acharya Sushrut, Acharya Charak, Nagarjun, Maharshi Kanad, Patanjali, Kalidas, Vishakdatta. So these are the examples of that particular multidimensional holistic idea. And now we should understand the concept of person and a concept of vyakti for the proper understanding of holistic approach, because without understanding the concept of person and vyakti, this is not possible to get the proper implementation of that particular holistic approach. So friends, we know that person is a Western perspective, and it is assumed that the ontological definition of person is an individual substance of rational nature. John Locke assumes that the self-consciousness based definition of a person as a being that can conceive itself as itself. Immanuel Kant assumes that the moral philosophical definition of the person is an end in itself. In the current analytical debate, the focus has shifted to the relationship between bodily organism and person. Eric T. Olson stressed the theory of animalism and stated the persons are essentially animals and that mental or psychological attributes play no role in their identity. So these are the different approaches which are presenting the concept of person. But now there is a question that is there any difference between the concept of person and concept of vyakti? Person is a Western word and vyakti is a Bharatiya terminology. So a person is discussed only from a pragmatic point of view, while vyakti is a deep concept and it involves some more dimensions. In general, a person means human, but it has many meanings such as manifestations, visibility, physical appearance and form. And one may also think it as what is expressed in the body. Therefore, he is a person, but it is not so. Bharatiya Darshan presents Vyakti as a partial manifestation of infinite consciousness and a representative of divine cosmic power. And Vyakti presents all aspects of human beings, that is social aspect, physical aspect, psychological aspect, spiritual aspect, etc. So there are so many theories of Vyakti and Vyaktitva in Bharatiya Vangamay. In Bharatiya Vangamay, we find these foremost theories. The first theory is Panchakosha theory of Upanishads. The second is Prakriti Purush theory of Sankhya Darshan. Well as that is also Yoga Darshan, Raj Yoga. And the third theory is Shiva Shakti, Kundalini, Nadi Chakra, and Pran theory of Hatha Yoga. So these three theories are very popular and have very in-depth interpretation of that particular Vyaktitva. So friends, you know that there is a Panchakosh theory in Upanishads, and there are 5 layers of that particular Atma or that particular Purush. So the outermost is Annamaya Kosh. That is a physical body. That is Annamaya Kosh. And in the inner side, there is Pranamaya Kosh. And after that there is Manomaya Kosh. And after that, the inner one is Vijnanmaya Kosh. And the innermost is Anandamaya Kosh, which is nearest to that particular Purush or Atma. So this is the Panchkosh theory of which is given by Upanishads. So here in holistic approach, in Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, we are focusing to progress the person from every aspect. That is Annamaya Kosh, that is Pranamaya Kosh, that is Manomaya Kosh, that is Vijnanmaya Kosh, that is Anandamaya Kosh. We are focusing to be progressed, to be uplift on these aspects of a particular Vyakti. So we have a holistic approach from the time of that Vedas and Upanishads. And we were talking about the holistic approach from that time. So we have an ancient legacy. We have an ancient approach of that particular holistic progress of a particular unit of society, that is Vyakti. So there is one another theory that is from Sankhya Darshan, Prakriti Purush theory. You know that there are 2 tattvas. The first one is Prakriti and the second is Purush. And the combination of Prakriti and Purush, it evolutes the Mahat or Buddhi. And Buddhi evolutes Sattva Guna, Rajas Guna and Tamas Guna. And Sattva Guna evolutes Panch Gyanindriya, Panch Karmendriya and 1 Manas. Rajas Guna evolutes nothing, but it provokes other 2 gunas for their actions. And the third one is the evolution of that particular Mahat. The third guna is Tamas Guna, which evolutes Panch Mahabhut and Panch Tanmatra. So this is also a theory of Vyaktitva in Sankhya Darshan. And when we are going through the holistic approach with a special reference of Bharatiya Vangamay, then we should also focus on this particular theory of Sankhya, where we were stressing upon the progress of a particular Vyakti from each and every aspect. We are including that particular physical aspect, we are taking that particular mental aspect, we are taking that particular behavioral aspect, where we are talking about rajas gun, we are focusing on that particular behavioral uh, approach. And you know that sattvagun is a dealer of that dharma gyan vairagya. Sadgun, rajas gun deals काम क्रोध लोभ मोह, and tamas gun deals with uh, sleep, darkness, agyan, all these things. So whenever we get a balance or a harmony in these three gunas, we can say that he is a healthy vyakti, he is a swasth vyakti, he is a vyakti with holistic approach. So we have this particular theory in the reference of that uh, holistic kind of approach. Now, the third theory, that is Nadi Chakra theory. It is a Hatha Yogic view. And we know that yoga is talking about that there are 72,000 nadis in our Vyaktitva. 7 chakras are there in our Vyaktitva. These are Mooladhar, Manipur, Swadhisthana, Anahat, Vishuddhi, Agya, Sahasrar. So all these theories were stressing upon the holistic progress of a particular unit of a society, that is a Vyakti. And now the question is that what is the connection between this holistic approach and that multidisciplinary approach? As I told earlier, that multidisciplinary curriculum means studying the same topic from the viewpoint of more than one discipline. It is also called cross-disciplinary, which indicates the aim to cross the boundaries between disciplines. And multidisciplinary approach is a method of curriculum integration that highlights the diverse perspectives that different disciplines can bring to illustrate a theme, subject, or issue. In a multidisciplinary curriculum, multiple disciplines are used to study the same topic, as I told earlier. But multidisciplinary approach in education is a way of learning which gives a major focus on diverse perspectives and different disciplines of learning to illustrate a theme, concept, and any issue. So this is very important, that multidisciplinary approach uh, provides higher learning. It is a idea of higher learning centers of ancient India were known for teaching every branch of Gyan. Over the centuries, the broader learning opportunities narrowed, and gradually the focus moved to specialization in particular subjects. So, higher education today comes with rigid boundaries across disciplines, and a student opting for a particular subject has to forego exposure to other subjects. So, multidisciplinary education prepares students to develop deeper skills. And NEP 2020 attempts to reboot the legacy of that higher learning centers of ancient Bharat by emulating the teaching learning that prevailed uh, during the time and making it relevant and contemporary. So, what is the importance of multidisciplinary approach? It offers a student the flexibility of choosing subjects, which helps a student to pursue their passions along with mainstream education. It helps to develop pragmatic attitude, and it is also helpful to develop collaborative teacher-student relationship. And now we should come to the importance of multidisciplinary approach. We know that it promotes collaboration and teamwork, and it promotes holistic education. It promotes real world problem solving attitude. Multidisciplinary approach enhances creativity too, which is comprehensive understanding, develops critical thinking skills, offer versatility, and it prepares students for global scenario. It is very important. It is very important for physical, intellectual, emotional, moral, social, spiritual progress. So for students, multidisciplinary education integrates knowledge and methodologies from various disciplines, fostering a holistic learning approach, which encourages students to draw connections between subjects, enhancing their critical thinking and problem solving skills. A flexible curriculum facilitates creative combinations of various disciplines. So learners will be able to choose from every from languages, and at the same time fields such as applied sciences, mathematics, and we can say business studies also. So it provides critical thinking, versatility, adaptability. It provides problem solving attitude, flexibility, analytical skills, and communication skills. So the opportunities of doing research are enhanced and improved through a holistic and multidisciplinary approach. Now the question is that what should be the methods of multidisciplinary approach? These methods are integration, selective method, comparative method, evaluative method, and elimination. Integration. What is integration? Integration is a collaborative approach that merges diverse fields of study to enhance problem solving capabilities and innovation. It refers to combining multiple fields of study and areas of expertise within a single framework to solve complex problems, drive innovation, and enhance understanding. So, this approach is particularly relevant in engineering where problems often requires synthetic of knowledge from various disciplines. We can say that like in engineering, it might mean integrating mechanical, electrical, chemical, software engineering principles from each and every field. We can get the useful, which is useful for us, and the goal is to create solutions that are more efficient, effective, and innovative than those derived from a single discipline alone. So now the second method is selective method. In selective method, we should observe. There, uh, there should be the observation. There should be study. There should be thinking. There should be systematization. There should be comparison. There should be analysis. And there should be, last but not least, to select the useful thing. So this is selective method. Comparative method, the characteristics or the parts are compared across two or more situations. If a difference is found between two situations with an adequate degree of likelihood or probability, then the origin or cause of a difference in is sought. So moreover, if a difference is not found, then the reasons for the similarity may be of interest to the researcher. However, the establishment of the existence of a characteristic, part, or a relationship must precede the making of a comparison. Although it might be argued that the deduction of a difference through comparison can be considered to be evidence for the existence of an entity or a characteristic or a relationship. So it's all about the comparative method. Comparative method in multidisciplinary education may be undertaken from either a scientific or humanistic perspective, where the former involves measurement and statistical analysis, and later it largely descriptive or ethnographic. Furthermore, uh, comparative research in education may draw on one or more of major disciplinary fields such as history, philosophy, sociology, and social psychology, etc. So after that, it is must to understand evaluative method. Multidisciplinary evaluation refers to the process of gathering both formal and informal data from a variety of sources to determine whether a student is eligible for special education services and to provide information about his or her current levels of functioning. We know that multidisciplinary implies the evaluation will be conducted using a team approach in which a number of professionals, for example, speech, language, pathologist, occupational therapist, physical therapist, psychologist, gather assessment data for better assessment. Just give me 1 second. Sorry for disturbance. So, uh, we were talking about the evaluative method. So, evaluative method is very important in multidisciplinary education. And we should evaluate the things and choose the correct one. After that, there is a process of elimination. We should eliminate the worthless from the theme. And elimination is very important because if we are not eliminating the things which are worthless, so we can't focus ourselves to the correct one, to the perfect one. We can't do it. So elimination is also there. And now it may be a question that which are the applications of multidisciplinary education. So I want to clarify that it helps to satisfy many basic human needs. It improves living standards. It improves personal health. It improves longer life expectancy. It it improves technological advancement. It provides economic profits and sustainability. So basically, these are the applications of that particular multidisciplinary education. Most of the tools, technologies, and medicines we use today are products and byproducts of multidisciplinary research. From pens to rockets, from aspirin to organ transplantation, we are enjoying the products of multidisciplinary approach, multidisciplinary education. So, in today's rapidly evolving academic environment, this approach is essential as it prepares students to take complex, real world challenges that do not fit neatly into one discipline. It promotes innovation, adaptability, and a broader perspective, equipping uh, graduates with the versatile skills needed to thrive in diverse professional fields and address global issues effectively. So it has broader perspective, it has critical thinking, it has creativity, it has problem solving skills, it has enhanced collaboration, it has better preparation for the job market, it has competitive edge, it has improved adaptability. And major fields of this approach are environmental sciences, public health, rural and urban planning, international relations, sciences, and data science, statistical analysis, computer science. All these disciplines are has multidisciplinary approach. So various aspects of this multidisciplinary approach provide a progressive thought, and we know that science has made striking discoveries from human happiness, providing the means for physical facilities. But multidisciplinary approach is applicable for ultimate well-being, having humanities and social sciences. Multidisciplinary approach prepares a bridge between physical, psychological, emotional, moral, as well as the spiritual aspects. It has ecocentric theory of well-being, where whole ecosystem is important, and the outcomes of various fields, the creation and preparation and propagation of the concept used the integration of many diverse fields. So we can say that holistic approach or the holistic education and multidisciplinary approach are interconnecting, and these both are very important in modern era, but it is not so new for Bharat. We have Gurukul Parampara, we have 64 Kalas. For 64 Kalas were there in the during the time of Sri Krishna. So we can't say that this is very new for us, but we forgot our legacy. And now this is the time to re-energize ourselves with National Education Policy 2020. And we should provide a visionary step to education through holistic and multidisciplinary approach. We are human. We are not perfect. We are alive. We try things. We make mistakes. We stumble. We fall. We get hurt. We rise again and we try again. We keep learning. We keep growing. And we are thankful for this priceless opportunity called life. So we should work together for holistic and multidisciplinary approach with the spatial reference of Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, with the spatial reference of Bharatiya Vangame, with spatial reference of that particular holistic approach. So, with these words, I would like to summarize my talk. And now the platform is over to you, sir, respected Dr. K.C. Morana, sir. It's over to you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Dr. Kavita Bhatt, madam, for your very comprehensive talk on the holistic and multidisciplinary education, where you have presented the conceptual clarification of all the key concepts that is involved in holistic and multidisciplinary approach in education, and particularly in view of NEP 2020. And you have very clearly reflected it, and you have made a very beautiful connection of the legacy of this approach with the classical and rich teaching tradition of our country and Bharatiya Gyana Parampara. We have also made very clear the methods and the importance and implementation of the holistic and multidisciplinary approach in education, so that one can has the visionary stand on the critical thinking, reflective thinking, analytical thinking, creativity, and problem solving attitude in the real world situation. Thanks so much, madam, for exploring your thought on it, and you have benefited us actually by giving different dimensions of Bharat Gyana Parampara. Thanks so much, madam. Now I would like to request Dr. Pramod Kumar Das to invite the scholars, the participants for discussion. Over to Dr. Das. Over to Dr. Das.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Mahana, and thank you, Dr. Bhatt. Now, directly we shall. Yes, we are running behind the schedule. So, without any formalities, I invite Dr. Ranjit Ghosh, sir. Sir, please have your observation. Then we shall continue our discussion. Dr. Ghosh.
Hello.
Pranam, sir. Pranam.
Pranam. You have given a very, rather I should say, a comprehensive view, a holistic view on education. Okay. So your deliberation itself is holistic. That is what I am telling. Now the thing is, 2-3 things I want to point out, that you are referring to our the Bharatiya Gyana Parampara, which is basically holistic, and starting with Gurukul and other systems, we find that it is a. Now, I want to point out that in Cambridge University, there is a degree Tripus. And that Tripus degree, you started with discussing that can there be the curriculum which will include music, mathematics, and history, these 3 things. So this type of system is already prevalent in Cambridge University, and then in Oxford to some extent, and then again in American universities, Harvard. So there we find mathematical Tripus, natural science, Tripus of natural science, and Tripus in philosophy. Now in philosophy includes philosophy, literature, and history, and economics also. So literature is there, cipher, and history and economics are in the course, along with the innovative thing in philosophy. So this type of system, they have imbibed probably the Indian system, and this is prevalent since 17th and 18th century. And now again we are trying to revive this sort of educational curriculum. So how far, what will be the outcome of such type of things? Now the thing is, in India, what happens in the field of education normally, we like to have a broader view, broader perspective about the comprehensibility of the students. So for that reason, if you want to teach a subject A to Z, it is just not possible, because we mostly believe in examination oriented education. So that is the problem with us in India. They are introducing such things, but the problem will come from the side of the assessment. Now, what you have mentioned, and that is actually the fact, that the idea behind this sort of multidisciplinary education is to the flexible curriculum will generate a creativity. That is the idea. But will it be possible to say that in Indian context, in the time and under the way the students are taught in this system of education, can there be a generation of, can we find a generative creativity? We cannot, I have every doubt, because unless the theoretical situation, we put everything in India in a theoretical situation, but in practice this doesn't happen. So that is the problem. So or else what you have mentioned in our Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, it is definitely holistic everywhere. You have mentioned about the Panchakos theory, and everywhere we find the importance has been given to physical, mental, intellectual, spiritual, and economic. All these aspects have been taken. Like any Arthashastra or basic, everywhere. They start with something, but their focal theme, that's the case of Arthashastra. The economy, prior to the economics, the statecraft, and also the way the man should behave. And it talk about the Manu and all those earlier thinkers who have given these things. They have always tried to given a wider view of the holistic view of knowledge. But that is the problem, that in modern system of education, if we introduce these things in an examination oriented education, these things will be whether these things will be feasible, only time can say. This is the observation, and the question is, this is the question, that can it be acceptable to solve the real world problems, as you have said, real world problem solution? Will it be possible? So this small observation question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Next, Dr. Prashant Shukla ji. Sir, please have your query or observation or appreciation.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatt, ma'am. It was a very enriching discussion, and I learned a lot from you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. In fact, it gave me a new perspective to think about the multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary approach. Ma'am, I was just wondering that these days, a lot of people are talking about developing a kind of holistic, positive, and multidisciplinary approach. But I am a little bit cautious before accepting this kind of perspective. As a prominent philosopher once said, we agree that reality is indivisible, but the study of reality must be divided. Like, let's say, if I go to the hospital for any particular physical trouble, so I know that every organ, every part of the body is well interlinked with each other. But I cannot randomly go to any surgeon, any physician saying that since all the organs of the body are the same, so any random doctor can give me a medication. In fact, there are always a different kind of specialist prescribed for different type of ailment. There would be a cardiologist, there would be, let's say, a neurosurgeon, an orthopedic, a gynecologist, a pediatrician, and so on and so forth. So I am a little bit cautious while people claim that a holistic approach should be developed, because a holistic approach sometimes gives me the impression that we become the jack of all. But I'm sorry, we cannot become the master of one. So whether becoming jack of all would be a good idea while we are doing analysis, critical exposition, or any kind of philosophical task? I mean, just a humble query. I want a response. Thank you, ma'am.
Suppose we are working for a particular disease, and as I told earlier, that is a particular theme where the specialization, different specializations work with each other. That is a particular theme. Suppose we are working on the disease of skin. So we have a physician, we have a person from that laboratory that is working for the tests of different tests of the body, and a person from the specialization of that skin disease, he is or she is working for the solutions. So is it not a example of that multidisciplinary approach? Because the persons from different fields working for a particular solution for particular problem. So I mean to say that that is an example of multidisciplinary approach. Suppose we are working on a particular song. I have already told that where we are taking a song and we are trying to set a rhythm. We are trying to set a music. So music is there, Sangeet is there, and where we are trying to set the meters, that is from mathematics, and we are trying to set the the level of classical or not, that is classical or that is not classical, that is shastriya or that is not shastriya. So we are setting that from history. So the person with particular specialization working for a particular song, so it is a multidisciplinary approach. You are absolutely right that it may be problematic that master of all, jack of all, master of none. It is true. But here we are trying to set a general mindset, a harmony for solution of a particular problem. So it is called multidisciplinary. I
Right,
think.
right. And just a small addition.
Thank
Like in Introduction to Indian Philosophy, it is asserted time and again that we as Darshan promote a Samanvayatmak Drishtikod, a synthetic outlook, where every problem is discussed from all possible approaches,
Yes,
whether the
yes,
approach is
that is
metaphysical,
true. That is true.
epistemological, logical, ethical. But the
Yes,
point
yes.
is this: while doing philosophy, I cannot take the perspective of economics or sociology or chemistry. Even the metaphysical, epistemological, logical, aesthetical, axiological, all these are only and only sub branches of philosophy. So, still, I'm not being multidisciplinary. I'm sticking to my particular expertise, training, background, and area of specialization. So, of course, multidisciplinary approach is good, but it can be developed only at the end when I have claimed expertise on my particular area of training. Because if at the very outset I may claim to try to achieve some kind of multidisciplinary approach, I'm sorry, it would be an utter failure. Don't you agree? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Um, Any question? Yes, yes.
To
Any?
what you said.
Ranjit
Hello.
sir, please. Yes, sir.
The thing is, when you talk about a song, then that song, a particular person can be a lyricist, he can be also a composer, and at times he is also a singer. So can you say that this can be well taken as a multidisciplinary in the field of music, you can say.
Yes,
As
yes, of
Prashant,
course. Why not?
yeah, as Prashant was saying, the holistic health doesn't mean that when you need surgery, you should also normally the surgery is performed and then the medicine is given by the same surgeon and all these things. But can we say in the same way that a particular doctor is a specialist in surgery, he is providing medicine, the post-surgery medicines. But that doesn't mean that this type of disciplines doesn't require a type of specialization. So specialization is required in certain fields, but in certain other, you can find the multidisciplinary things that, or even transdisciplinary things, as you find in the ancient subject of alchemy. Alchemy is such a thing that in it is from the Greek downwards. You find there are so many things are involved. The human, from human to the nature, and from the nature to the all these things. So this is definitely an area where there is a problem. So that is what I think Prashant was referring, and you try to answer on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ranjit sir. Yes, any question from anybody else?
Doctor, yeah, actually, please invite Dr. Radhanath Behra, sir.
Yes, Radhanath sir, please have your query or observation. Very briefly, sir, Radhanath sir. Yes.
I was listening with fondness about producing generalists. A generalist, of course, is a person who knows everything on the surface and nothing in depth. But we are living in an age of specialization, where specialization matters. To put it in a clear perspective, Bertrand Russell used to say, scientific outlook is contrary to human nature. That is, to develop a scientific skill, one has to devote his whole life. It is not like poetry or music or any fine art or craft. It has to be intellectually tuned. So, again, I'm citing an example of Aldous Huxley, literary writer, philosopher, and so on. He used to give an example of interconnectedness. This body is integrated whole. True, from mouth to toe, it is all one. But as you have pointed out, that when you suffer from some part, you have to go to a specialist. A generalist is of little help. He gives an example when the mouth drinks or the palate tastes any elixir or alcohol. Who suffers? It is the innocent kidney. Kidney is innocent. It has no role, but then it suffers because it is interconnected. So, if you consider these things in a proper perspective, one thing comes to my mind that Jack of all trades and master of none, it is not the age. We have to be somewhat specialized in one particular aspect because human mind, after all, is very limited in scope, in limited, narrow in comprehension, and knowledge so vast. Knowledge, whether it is from humanities, soft arts, fine arts, or even from science, they have to be engrossed throughout your life. It is not like understanding a subject from the examination point of view. It is a question of who is a uh, literate. Simply learning 3 hours doesn't make a man very literate. 3 hours are from reading, writing, and arithmetic. But as you said, one thing comes to my mind. Dr. Harshvardhan, the former law minister, I'm sorry, minister of, uh, I think he was from medicine and health minister. Yeah. He was just commenting on the ancient Indian art of cosmetic surgery. He gave an example of Lord Ganesh. The human head was severed and substituted by an elephant. He said ancient Indians knew a lot of cosmetic surgery. I do not to how to assimilate the present day knowledge with the so-called ancient faith. We, as literary figures or as people from spiritual side, we only rely on faith and not on the test from our great laboratories. So I think because every great truth begins as a doubt, so let us doubt it and perhaps we may arrive at the truth that the assimilation of knowledge is more important, whether it is a specialization or integration or even decentralization and diversification. Thank you very much for your nice presentation. But you are a votary of NEP 2020. I am a votary of Cricket 2020. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Dr. Behra, for your nice observation. So, should we conclude now? Dr. Manoj Danwar, would you speak something, sir? Dr. Manoj ji? Okay. It was a very comprehensive discussion. So, Madam has explained every points very comprehensively, very clearly. She is speaking about a multidisciplinary approach. That is the focus point. That we in NEP in the modern time, our approach should be different. What we were in the past, we were master in one particular subject that we call specialization. But the time has come that we should have minimum knowledge. That is called um, real meaning of education. That we should have minimum education about various aspects of our life, because we are living in a post-modern time. Technology has been developed, science has been developed, so we have to cope with that. Otherwise, we shall stand failure. So, as science is developing, our approach should be so scientific. Otherwise, we shall remain dogmatic as we were before. I am a Pandit means I shall have knowledge about only Vedas and Upanishads, Indian philosophy, Bhagavad Gita. No, I should have also minimum knowledge about medical science. Otherwise, I shall be dependent. So here, the education policy aims to make man independent. The more we know, the more we become independent. At least we should have a minimum access, minimum entry to many fields so that our life will become easier. This is the attempt. We do not need to be master of everything. We should have a minimum student of everything. What is the problem? We should have a learning attitude. And the more we learn, the more we can facilitate our life itself. The more we can make our life easy. It will be very helpful for us that we should know about electricity, we should know about medical science, we should know about space science. Otherwise, because knowledge is not bad. Sometimes that is how Madam is saying that we should have a complete personality. Therefore, she also emphasized upon the teachings of Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, that we should have an attitude, at least suppose I am not a master of all things, all subjects, but I should have an attitude of learning from those who have expertise. So therefore, there is a joke in the modern time, and I am watching in YouTube about the business success and business success. How can a man become a successful businessman? They are satiringly they are saying that you should not be like a Rajanikanth style. That means I shall do everything. I should have the knowledge of everything. I shall be the producer. I shall be the actor. I shall be the director. Not exactly that. That is not multidisciplinary. We should know the teamwork. We should work together. We should respect each other. We should assess. We should have access from each other. We should go beyond our egocentric attitude that I am the knower of everything. If somebody has some expertise, I should have a patience, I should have a respect to work with those people in a team spirit. And that is more encouraged in the teachings of Upanishads, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the traditional courses. So what is the problem? Either we are becoming a very strict materialist, or we are becoming a great spiritualist. So we cannot cope, we cannot make a balance. That is the problem with Madam. She is saying that we should have a that is holistic by nature. Holistic means we should have respect for our material existence, we should have respect for our psychic development, and we should have respect for the mutual affinity, the mutual understanding, the mutual living, our spirituality. So that is complete personality. Otherwise, we shall stand failure. Even our generation will not recognize us. We shall become more dependent. We shall become handicapped. We cannot cope with the modern flow. That therefore multidisciplinary education is necessary. Very surprisingly, I am saying in this forum, many things I do not know about a mobile phone. I depend upon my son or others. Please do this for me. Please help me applying some forms in this office. This is my problem till the date. That should not be. But I am also happy to see many great old men about age 80 plus. They are very much expert in computer. They are very much expert in online system. I salute them. So this is an attitude that we should not confine ourselves in a particular form. Suppose we are philosophers, we are philosophy professors, so we shall be only confined to the philosophy conference, philosophy webinar, philosophy writing of articles, philosophy. No. We should behave like a scientist also.
Yes,
We
yes,
should,
of course,
yes,
sir.
we should,
This
yes,
is out of
yes,
box
yes,
thinking.
yes.
Hmm.
We should behave
And we
like
should have a
a
general idea of everything. We should have a
yes.
general idea.
We should
So
have
thank you so much.
we should have even the army spirit. What happened in Palagam, we should have that. Not only that, we shall only preach Bhagavad Gita wherever. I said, no. Therefore, in our tradition, it is said the same person is a Brahmin, the same person is a Sudra, the same person is a Vaishya, and the same person is also a Kshatriya, depending upon his duties in different contexts. That is multidisciplinary. I should not say that I am born Brahmin and I shall die Brahmin. No, that is not the exact meaning of a caste system. I have 4 possibilities. Now I am a Brahmin. Sometimes I behave like a Kshatriya. Sometimes I behave like an intelligent person, like a Vaishya. Many times my life is engaged with the service for mankind. That is that time I am Sudra. So that is complete personality. Otherwise, we shall stand back. Even our son and daughter will not pay respect. They will say we are useless persons. We do not have any use in the society. In foreign countries also, it is their old people are treated like that. Useless people. They do not have any requirement in this life. So this is a great challenge for all senior citizens to. They should come forward to be smart, to have the youth spirit, to cope with the modern technology. Otherwise, therefore, they should make friendship with their grandson and daughter. That is how generation gap will be collapsed. So this is the meaning of a multidisciplinary, and by that we can be holistic naturally. My personality should be developed holistically. Yes, I am very much concerned about my health problems. Everybody should be. Everybody should have a very careful checkup, medical checkup in a regular interval. We should know the minimum sense of biology. We should have sense for cosmology. We should have a sense for environmental ethics. We should have now the India-Pak situation we all know. But we shall be very much callous about this. This is not our matter. We do not have any sensitivity about Pahalagam matter. We are simply worried in philosophical discussion. No, that is not man. Man should have emotional, that madam said very nicely, emotional IQ. One should have intellectual IQ. One should have a spiritual IQ. If we do not have that emotional feeling for the people who are killed in Pahalagam, then we are not at all man. We should have a humanity. So development of humanity is possible the more we have access for different fields of education. That means many doors are opened for us. That means we see the better sky. That means our knowledge is wider. Knowledge cannot be full, but we are updated. That much. And we learn from the difficulties. We learn from our failures. We learn from our limitations. So the process is going on. The process is going on. Thank you all. This is my understanding, what I understood. Please, madam, have your last word. Then we shall go to Professor Mahana for vote of
Thank you
thanks.
so much, sir. You have analyzed. Thank you so much for this wonderful analysis. And you have analyzed the things very well. And it was very clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So
Thank
now,
you.
Thank you, madam.
So much for providing a wider vision for this multidisciplinary approach. Thank you.
This is your platform. This is your home. You come again and again with new topics. Okay. We all enjoyed your deliberation
Thank you,
today.
sir. Thank you.
So now it is over to Dr. Mahana.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Madam, please wait. Listen to Dr. Mahana for vote of thanks.
Okay, thanks so much,
Okay.
Dr.
Thank
Das.
you all for providing me an opportunity to interact with you people.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, thanks so much, madam. So today we all have listened the talk of Madam Dr. Kavita Bhoot for more than 1 hour and 10 minutes, and we have also listened the responses made by Dr. Bhoot from the observations made by Dr. Ranjit Ghosh sir, Dr. Prashant Shukla sir, Dr. Radhanath Behra sir, and Dr. Pramod sir. We all have listened. And today, Dr. Kavita Bhatt wanted to explore the holistic and multidisciplinary education in view of NEP 2020 to explore the emotional, social, cognitive, mental, social, and spiritual development of all students in these subjects. But and he has tried to integrate the Indian knowledge system with the real world situations that every student has to be in the present. And when we have listened to the observations made by Dr. Bose, it is very clear. And Dr. Bose has a doubt whether actually this is in a theory or this has to be practicalized in our day-to-day life. And we also we are also listening, we are also witnessing it, and we have attended the seminar of UGC regarding the holistic and multidisciplinary approach. And when there is a less number of teachers, less number of that is a specialized teacher that is in different subject, that how it is possible. And Dr. Ghosh has also said that now the examination system is now that is we are facing the examination based education, that no student is worried about what kind of that is a specialist study that he or she is aiming at. And everybody is curious about by completing the courses. So there are less number of teachers. There is no subject expertise in the undergraduate students, in undergraduate institutions. And how the holistic and multidisciplinary approach to education can be fruitful? Then how can we achieve the integral approach in education? So we are in doubt. So, and Dr. Das has also said that how it can be well connected. How that is we can implement it. So Dr. Bhatt has given the idea of implementation, has given the way of implementing theory in the that is real world situation. Dr. Behera has also given his approach. He's given his observation of making the connectivity of the old system, that is Bharat Jnana Parampara, with the new approach. And Dr. Prashant Shukla has also given his observation very clear. Still, then it is a theory that we have to learn, and the holistic and multidisciplinary approach in education is meant for holistic development, for the integral approach of the students, that every student should be aware of that. But the time is that is we are not aiming at the jack of all trades. Sometimes that is the students and neither the jacks or trades, and the master wanted is far behind it. So thanks so much, madam, for making an awareness today regarding the holistic and multidisciplinary approach. And we are hopeful, we are optimistic that the time will come when we can give justice to the students, and the holistic and multidisciplinary approach will have its proper implementation in different education, starting from primary Sishu Batika to the research area, to the research class. Thanks so much, madam, for your very comprehensive talk, for new approach of giving your idea and strengthening our dimensions thought in this approach. And on behalf of Philosophy family, I extend my gratitude to you for your presence, and I also extend my gratitude to Dr. Bose, Dr. Behera, Dr. Shukla, Dr. Das for their queries, for their observation, and for the new way of rethinking on this approach. And I also propose vote of thanks to all the viewers and learning participants to be with us till the end of this session. Thanks so much, Dr. Bhatt. Thanks so much, Dr. Pramod Kumar Das, our admin, for making a connectivity with Dr. Kavita Bhatt, for making the session, for making the webinar successful, meaningful. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all. So with this, we declare the session closed. Grateful to all of you.